Hello, good morning. Welcome to PsychCandy for Thursday, July 9th. Elizabeth, good to see you. Hope everybody's week is going really well. We got a lot of stuff going on this weekend. Real quick before I dive in today, I want to invite you guys. There's going to be a 24-hour marathon happening on Saturday, and a lot of great shows and content. It's all going to be happening all within one marathon show that's going to last for 24 hours. Um, I will be doing a PsychCandy segment at 2 p.m. on Saturday with some special music guests. Going to have Countywide Manhunt with me during that time period. So jump in there and again try to take in some of the shows. It's going to be pretty crazy. 24 hours, but it should be fun. Um, so this week we've been kind of tackling through a few different things, haven't we? Talking about relationships and how we manage our relationships, how we manage ourselves, our emotions, you know, dealing with things. And today I'm going to talk to you about something that sometimes people will overlook. How many times have you had your heart broken? You know, or have you broken somebody else's heart? And then how much really thought process do we really put into that? Do you know that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States? And this is just in the United States. And that's an estimated 45,000 Americans killing themselves every year. Now, that may just be the tip of the iceberg, considering that only 1 in 25 suicide attempts will actually be fatal. Now, in addition, there may be no way to tell how many deaths, like believed to be due to natural causes or accidents, are actual suicide attempts. Now, still, while health statistics confirm that more people than ever are attempting suicide, well, obviously with advances in emergency medical stuff and all that, and with research, well, when we dive into the psychological roots of suicide, that could help to maybe start reversing because we start to become knowledgeable. But think about like in relationships, when you go through a breakup, there's heartbreak. And people that deal with that, especially with the relationships, okay, that creates, for a lot of people, that creates that really deep depressive state. You feel lost, you feel abandoned sometimes, especially relationships that last for like long periods of time. You're with somebody for years. Well, you've developed emotional bonds, you've developed life bonds. According to attachment theory, the attached adults, or what they feel towards their romantic partners, well, it kind of resembles the attachment that an infant might have for his or her mother. So, for example, people look to their romantic partners for security, comfort, you know, close physical contact. And in fact, adults who've been in long-term committed relationships often find that all other emotional bonds kind of become less important. As a result, this kind of relationship bond becomes an essential part of their sense of identity, especially in relationships, like I said, that last for many years. And so when the relationship ends, it means losing the sense of identity and security that a committed relationship provides. Not only do they become emotionally vulnerable and depressed, but they may also be at the greater risk for suicide. Unfortunately, while there's been tons of different research studies showing that relationship loss is a strong risk factor for depression and other emotional problems, there's been relatively little that looks into suicide risk in relationship breakups. So, with this in mind, there is a new study that happened that examines the impact that relationship breakups can have on depression and on suicide. Now, this study it was a very interesting study, but it was based on 208 adults, all right, age range of 18 to 64. And they reported experiencing a romantic breakup in the previous 3 months. So the 3 month cutoff period was used because that allowed kind of enough time for people to become aware of the symptoms or feelings that they were experiencing after the breakup. So, along with providing like demographic information as well as information about the relationship itself, like how long it lasted, etc., all participants completed a questionnaire measuring suicide risk, depression, level of perceived efficacy, and they also completed the commitment subscale of like the investment model of a relationship. Okay, and participants reporting a strong level of commitment and investment in the former relationship also reported significant levels of depression that followed the breakup. Now, that seems common sense, right? But the thing is that how do you go from that place of that depression? And are you approaching from a healthy dynamic, or do you get lost in that depression that takes you down to such a place that you just don't want to continue? That's what happened. That's trying to find that link right there, trying to really understand, because without the knowledge and without being aware of that, it, it leaves this open this open area of where there's not the statistics to support that. Hey, suicide and relationship breakups. Okay, how do we fix that? How do we build a better resource for us to understand when we're dealing with a breakup? See, a lot of times, think about it. When you go through a breakup, there's many times there's anger, there's resentment, there's all these things. That's what people are focused on. You did me wrong or whatever. I want to break up. Pfft, done. And for some, it's not a big deal. But for the other portion, it's a huge deal because you just removed the security. You just removed the emotional security. You removed maybe the physical security. You've removed your shared aspects of life, of how you live, how you operate. Even down to the simple things of having dinner together. You become used to it, right? And then all of a sudden you're in a breakup and you're just by yourself, just alone. And that loneliness can take over. That loneliness can just absorb us. That depression becomes like a heavy, heavy blanket, you know. And still, the results of this study show that people ending a serious relationship, especially one in which they had invested all that time and emotional commitment, may be especially prone to emotional problems, being depression. And this in turn may also put them at the higher risk for the suicide attempt. Now, though the link between depression and suicide has been very long established, it may also be important to consider relationship commitment and investment as also a means of how people get to that suicide level. While a broken heart doesn't necessarily lead to suicide on its own, it may certainly make people more susceptible to emotional problems, whether, you know, how we cope, how we manifest and understand our feelings is so important. And I've spoke about this before, that a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to sit with the heavier stuff. We don't allow ourselves to really sit with that feeling. And you have to sit with yourself. You have to sometimes sit in that darkened space so that you can understand how to resolve that dark space. How do I resolve that feeling of loneliness, or that feeling of depression, or that anxiety feeling, and all of those things? A lot of times we run from it. People run from it, or it just becomes so overwhelming, and you've never allowed yourself to really sit to a certain point. So whenever it hits you to that point, it's too much. That's usually the target area of suicide. It's people hitting a point that they have no place to go mentally. They're emotionally done. They don't know how to navigate past that point because they've allowed themselves, or just the situation has brought them to a, such a deep dark place within themselves that there's no hope. That's a horrible, horrible place to be for anybody. I've dealt with a lot of people over the years that have been suicidal, and a lot of times it's true that people that are going through that level of depression, a lot of times they'll make a suicide attempt, and most of us heard about this, that it's just a cry for help. They knew they weren't have that they have that desire for somebody like, I need somebody to see what's going on because I don't know how to express it otherwise. So a lot of people do that, but then sadly, of course, you have the other people that they they make sure that it's a completed thing. And it's awful. It's awful for anybody to be in that place, and a lot of people too that go through that broken heart depression, that place of getting to the place of suicide. You'd be surprised how many times you actually can't tell it right off the bat because it's people trying to, you know, cover it, cover it up, hide it, and then all of a sudden they're gone. People's like, oh my God, I never knew. But see, a lot of times those people, they don't have that support system around them. They don't have really the good friends. A lot of times it's being pushed or being put into a bracket of that they're alone. Even if they're surrounded by people, they're surrounded by like shallow people that really aren't invested in their life, don't really know about what's going on, don't really know how you're feeling. So when you harbor and you put all that stuff in a box somewhere, it's going to mount up. It's going to layer up. So in closing out that portion, it's important just if you've ever experienced or if you're experiencing a broken heart, realize that sadly it's something that all humans are going to go through. We're all going to have a broken heart sometimes. We're all going to have those deep areas. Get help. Reach out to somebody. Be it a best friend that you trust, a family member, professional help, but reach out. Don't just sit with it. Don't just hold on and just hope that it gets better. Do what you need to do to help it get better. Because nobody deserves to live that way. Nobody deserves to feel that with no hope. There's always going to be hope. There's always going to be a choice and an option. So always choose to reach out that. And if you're ever in a situation of ending a relationship, be it friendships too, whatever, be mindful of how you do that. Be mindful of the words you use. Be mindful of the actions because you never truly know where somebody might be mentally. And that would be a horrible thing to carry if you were the cause that somebody went and wanted to end their life. I hope this has been good food for thought for you. Elizabeth, thank you for being here with me. For everybody watching out in YouTube land, thank you for tuning in. I invite you to please be here with me tomorrow, Friday, 11:30. That'll be the last topic sessions. And then the PsychCandy on Saturday at 2 p.m. is going to be a special music show. And we're going to be talking also about just how music impacts our life. So don't miss that. It's going to be really good. I hope you have a very blessed and amazing rest of your Thursday. And hey, guys, tomorrow is Friday. Then we get the fun-filled weekend. So do something special. Do something for yourself. And all right, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.